you said, have you ever considered the fact that you keep attracting these really good, nice guys is because it keeps you safe? It's because you don't have to let go of control. It's because you don't have to be too vulnerable. And I was just, my mind was literally blown. Like, I bet you my jaw was on the ground because I just never considered that.
This is the Illuminate podcast, and I am your host, Rebecca Boatman. I am fascinated with human relationships, from going on first dates to understanding attachment styles and how our personal spiritual mission plays a big role in all of it. I created this podcast to invite you into conversations with inspiring leaders and I, as we explore different topics surrounding dating, relationships, money, and spirituality. Before we start, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And my one ask, and a great way that you can contribute to the podcast, is to leave a 5-star review. And now let's jump in. Today's episode is with Ashlyn, who is co-founder of the lifestyle movement Love Ignites Peace, a powerful truth that empowers women to transform limitations in any area of their life into love so they can raise their personal vibration and get their freak on, aka frequency, on body, mind, and spirit, both daily and deeply. And Ashlyn is a student of mine and had a very powerful Calibrave experience. And I asked her to come on the podcast to share her story with you, to ignite possibility in your heart. And her greatest desire is to live a heart-centered life that shines light and love into the world. She believes if you truly want to change the world, you first have to heal, evolve, and grow yourself. And now let's dive in.
One of the things that defines me the most is just my love and relationships with my family and the people in my life. That is the number one most important thing to me. And obviously also my relationship with myself. We sometimes discount that, and that's a really important one to make sure we are focusing on. I started, as you said, a company about a year ago with my mom. My mom is my best friend.
Yeah.
And truly, my passion in this world is to help people shine their lights. Because as we each shine our own light, that vibration of the planet, it rises and it gives other people permission to shine their own. So it's kind of this ripple effect of just living our best lives. And I know some people don't love that term, but it's occasionally overused. But really, it's that high frequency, getting your freak on, body, mind, and spirit in every way, through the good and the bad, and honoring others in that journey, supporting each other in that journey, and just absolutely shining our lights. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, I love it. You are such a wonderful, bright light. And let's go back to when you first decided to do a Calibrave with me. And for those of you that are new and listening, a Calibrave is an experience where you will go out into the world and do something that challenges your current sense of self, so you can then upgrade into a new sense of self that is connected to the things that you want to manifest. So we love the word Calibrave because it's a brave action step that then has you calibrate. So what had you, Ashlyn, say, okay, I'm ready? Because I know that we really attract people who are at that point where they're like, okay, I'm really ready for change. I'm going to embody that change. They're at that point right there. So what was that for you that said, okay, I'm all in, let's go, let's do this?
I love that question. I think that our patterns that are showing up in our lives are information. And so I had a series of relationships where I kept experiencing the same thing. And for me, that pattern was around just the really nice, good guys, but it always was not it. That feeling where it just wasn't to that level that I was looking for. And I know that your vibe attracts your tribe. I know this law of attraction. And so I had to recognize, okay, if I am vibrationally in alignment with this same pattern that has literally played out the entirety of my dating years. I'm 27 at this point. And so, not that you start dating when you're 12, but let's just say, even the boys you start having crushes on at that time, this pattern over and over and over had played out. And I really got tired of living this life of 1 foot in, 1 foot out with guys, where it's like, this is good. He fits the bill, but like, I just don't feel it. So recognizing the pattern. And then also, again, as you mentioned, having this company that's all about raising your vibration, all about self-awareness. I'm like, I need to find a resource that helps me work on overcoming this limitation in my relationships, that recalibrates me, which is so funny that, not funny, obviously it's incredibly intentional that it's called a Calibrave, but that recalibrates me to what I do want to attract. So basically that's when I started even more deeply engaging with your work, and you and I exchanged a few messages, and I decided to take the leap, because the only person that can change our lives or our situations are ourselves. And so I had to say yes and make the choice. And I'm super, super grateful that I did.
I already have the chills. Okay, tell us about your experience, because I want you inspire me, and I know your story and experience inside the Calibrave will inspire women as well.
Yeah, so I love this story because it kind of knocks me on my booty and makes me laugh. So the very first call that we had on the Calibrave, there were several other women, and then we chatted with Rebecca, and we had already done our unique soul template and some journaling. And like I said, like, I'm a very self-aware person. I'm acutely aware of my patterns, and I have a lot of resources to transcend them, but I couldn't identify what the root was. And we can treat the symptoms, but if we don't get to the root, like, you don't actually create sustainable change. So I get on this call, and I don't want to say like overconfidently, but I was kind of like, no, I don't need this other stuff. Let me tell you, I know my problem. And so I just told you, I was like, here's what's happening. Da, 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 da. And you looked at me like dead in the eyes. And it's so sweet in the best way of like asking permission. You're like, can I offer you something? And I'm like, heck yeah. Like, that's why I'm here. Go give it to me, sister. And you said, have you ever considered the fact that you keep attracting these really good, nice guys is because it keeps you safe? It's because you don't have to let go of control. It's because you don't have to be too vulnerable. And I was just, my mind was literally blown. Like, I bet you my jaw was on the ground, because I just never considered that. And that's the beauty of seeking outside help sometimes, is that we can be so reflective internally, but sometimes we can't see things ourselves. Like, sometimes we just need a little bird's eye view that can zoom you out of the situation. And that's what you gave me in that day for the very first call. And it 100% resonated. It was 100% true. And then the next steps were obviously the actual, Calibrave, which is where...
Really quick, will you explain, just because when people hear, I mean, like, when you said like, oh, attract really nice guys and it's or good guys, it's like, of course we want nice and good guys. And right there, for just so I can give a little more context, it was, or I'll let you share, what was that missing piece in these men that you were attracting?
So what I mean by nice and good, because I want to clarify, because I'm sure some people are thinking, well, of course we want nice, good guys. Like, why is that an issue? They were nice, good guys, but they didn't have that like panache, that passion, that next level. And you mentioned that when you said, before you kind of gave me the advice, you said, look, can I ask you a few questions? Do you feel like you attract guys that you're like super attracted to? Do you feel like they are guys that have the level of success you're looking for? So a good, nice guy was there, but he wasn't to the caliber that I was looking for. Like, I know who I am. I think we all know innately that we are worth so much, and what that means to each of us as individuals, what that alignment looks like to fill your soul is different, that unique soul template. But for me, like, I'm a high achiever. I'm very driven. I am the kind of woman who I've always been told that I would need a yes man. And I've never wanted that. I've wanted true partnership. I've wanted a true equal that true balance of masculine and feminine. And I've always kind of used this as an example. I grew up where my dad would check the doors, lock the doors every night before we went to bed. And my dad is like one of those safe spaces for me where I can just truly let down. Like I know things are taken care of. And when you're kind of that high achiever, type A, like perfectionist, go get 'em kind of girl, when you get out there in the world, you're being a bad A in all these different areas. And it's nice to be able to come home and have that letdown. And I've always said, like, I want a guy that like will check the doors. I want a guy that when I come home, like I don't have to do everything. Now that doesn't mean that he has to do everything. Again, it's partnership. But where I can let down and have that experience. And so I hope that that's a little clarifying. In a good, nice guy is a good, nice guy, but they just were not to that level that I was looking for.
Yeah, I understand. And I sense it's where you're inspired and almost like they say we really respect people when we see that they do the harder thing. They're that protector, the provider. They take on that next level themselves, and there's such a respect that we then have for that person. I'm almost sensing it's like a partner where you deeply respect them. They do the harder thing.
Yeah, I think that you've really nailed it. And we talked in some of our calls around the balance of the masculine and the feminine. And so part of that is having someone that can hold that masculine energy and give me a second to slide more fully into my femininity.
Yeah.
And so that is totally what you're saying. And someone kind of also adding to the inspired piece, like someone that makes me a better person, I make them a better person. Yeah. I want to be challenged. I want to be supported. I want to be on the same like vibrational frequency. And that is what I was missing.
So tell me more about your Calibrave experience.
So enter the actual Calibrave day. And I woke up and I was like, why did I do this? Why am I doing this? I could be having a relaxing, chill Saturday and I'm nervous and I'm uncomfortable. And obviously that is such a divine link that you're about to have incredible transformation. It takes us getting uncomfortable to grow. And so I got my list, and the 5 things on my list were 1, to dance in public while a man filmed me for at least a minute, which let me tell you, ladies, that is a lot longer than you think when you are in the middle of Union Station in Denver and 50 people are watching you. And then number 2 was to hand out roses to at least 5 women, telling them that they were perfect as they were and they were not too much, because that was like kind of another program that I had running. Underlying was this feeling that I was just too much, too high achieving, not too masculine. That's really not it, but too, I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Maybe you
Is it ambitious or driven?
Yeah, I just had this like fake news belief that like a woman was supposed to be like more submissive and more quiet and more like I had painted a picture of this other kind of person that a guy really wanted. And I didn't know if I could be that person. Well, obviously I'm not supposed to be that person. I'm supposed to be me. And so I worked really hard to come to this place where I really love and accept who I am. But even integrating more deeply that, no, I own this. Like I know it, but I not only know it, but I own it, which is what I think you were trying to help me do in that Calibrave, where we are handing out these flowers saying you're amazing. And that was such a fun one to do because it really made so many people's days. And it was just so great. I ended up handing out the whole bouquet. But so what's up at 5? You know?
Awesome.
So that was my second one. Another one was I had to go to a gym and find a gym hottie to take a selfie with. And then the 4th one was to go up to a man and tell him that I was a strong, confident woman who was looking for great love. And I love that about myself, and ask him what he loved about himself. And then the last one was to give a guy my phone number. And anybody that is listening that does choose to do a Calibrave, I just highly recommend like you fully embody it, because there's ways to like skirt around it and not really do it. But what's the point? Like you've got a full send to really get the experience. Now, whatever you do will be the experience that you need. You'll be in the right place. But I even wish in hindsight that I would have kind of set some of the nerves aside and just owned it, because it would have calibrated me even more. So by the end of our 2 hours, I had completed all of my Calibraves. I even ran into the man in Whole Foods buying the flowers that had filmed me dancing in Union Station. So that was a journey. So that was really interesting. And then at the end, we were having our follow-up call, which comes right after the end of the Calibrave. And I am a determined girly, and I was going to complete what I started. And so I'm sitting in the park, and I'm like on my Zoom call on my phone with this phone number in my hand, which I don't know if you've talked about this before, Rebecca, but I do want to share this because this was so impactful for me in shifting my mindset. So when I was talking earlier about feeling like I was too ambitious, driven, whatever, it does tie into this balance of masculine and feminine, where it's like, okay, I'm that way, but I want a guy that's willing to meet me and I don't have to AKA wear the pants all the time. And so I was always hesitant to show a guy too much interest, in fear that that would come across too easy, or that would come across as like, well, I'm going to have to be the pursuer of this entire relationship kind of thing. So the way Rebecca helped me shift, and I hope anyone listening really tunes into this, giving a guy your number, you don't go up and you're not like, hey, bro, like, love to go out and get a drink with you sometime, you know? Like, that's the masculine. Or even do it in a feminine way of like, within the masculine, like, hi, I'd love to get a drink. Can you get a drink at 9 p.m. tomorrow? Yes, there's maybe a time and place for that. Like, love that for anyone that's into that. But the feminine way to do it is to give a guy your number and just be like, hey, like, I'd love to go out sometime. So you're showing you're open, you're showing you're available. And that was such a game changer for me. So I'm sitting in the park. I have this in mind. I have this new tool, this new way to tap into that feminine energy in an empowered way. And I'm just like scanning, like, who can I give my number to? But Rebecca goes, why? We need to talk about why didn't you finish this? Because there's a reason. And so she asked me, she's like, why did you not give someone your number? And I was like, well, like, I just couldn't find like the right guy. Like, I just couldn't find someone that I wanted to give my number to. And she's like, well, you know, the point of this challenge wasn't necessarily to find the one. You know, the point of the challenge is to create the experience, the energy to rewire and fire. So let me ask you again, why didn't you give someone your number? And I said, well, it'd just be a waste of time. And then you asked me, Rebecca, you said, well, is it really a waste of time? And I was like, no, it's not. Because every guy I've ever dated, even not the right ones, have taught me something. And I have come out like more prepared for the one type energy. And so I'm like, no, it's not. And she goes, okay, well, why then, if it's not a waste of time, did you not give out your number? And I kind of had a spirally moment. And in reflection, my energy body was telling me like, hello, you're about to hit a nerve. Because I got spazzy. I was like, I don't know. I just was like, oh, you're like, okay, let's calm down. So she took me through this little meditation of dropping into my body, getting recentered, getting kind of quiet. And then she asked, no, why did you not give someone your number? And I said, because the right guy is not out there for me. Like, true love does not exist for me. Like, I missed my opportunity. And like, even saying that now, I don't feel it. I've transcended that, but I feel so much compassion for that girl sitting on the hill, because what a heavy thing to carry around with you. And so anybody that's listening that's feeling that, like, let the emotion flow, but also know, like, we've got to transcend that truth, because that is fake news and we create from our beliefs. And that belief is not going to serve you in finding that love. You will actually indeed create the fact that true love doesn't exist for you if you're going to hang on to that. And, there can be a myriad of reasons that we've come to those beliefs, whether it's a heartbreak, a missed love. I'm sure there are more that you could think of, but for me, I think that I had a heartbreak and a missed opportunity that I thought, like, will I ever actually then have it? So when you brought that to my awareness, I was like, or when I brought that, we together in this amazing container brought that to my awareness. It also helped me start to shift things, because it's like, awareness is half the battle. We can't transcend the things we don't know.
Yeah.
And so I had that experience, and we talked through that. And then, oh my gosh, how did I even leave this part out?
Okay, wait, before you give the next juicy part, I want to give a little more context. So when you do a Calibrave, I give them, we have classes before, and then there's a Calibrave day. In the morning, I give you your custom Calibrave, and then you go out into the world. I give everyone their custom Calibraves, and then you go out into the world and you complete them. You have a certain amount of time, a certain amount of Calibraves. Everyone has different Calibraves. Some of them are the same, but like one or two may be the same, but then the rest are, unique from person to person, because some of what Ashlyn did, we have other women on the call where there's no way I would have asked them to do those things, because they would have psyched themselves out. It would have been too much. So the intention is to always give you something that is challenging yet possible and is going to confront whatever's holding you in a frequency that isn't a frequency of what you truly desire in partnership. So after, I think you guys had 2.5 hours out in the world to complete everything, and you come back. Everyone but Ashlyn, right, is in their house, or they're in their car, or maybe they're sitting down at a cafe and zooming in for the celebration and the debrief and the support and the integration. And Ashlyn's here zooming in from the park, okay? So she's zooming in from the park, which is where we just went through that whole, on the hill, which you mentioned, where we went through that whole process. Okay, now I'll pass it back to you. You can share.
Yeah, and to what you just said also about the different Calibrave things that you gave to the different ladies, I do want to affirm that it is super unique, because like some of the things that the other ladies had, I would have been like, oh my gosh, that's so easy, but it was a challenge for them. And so everyone's unique challenges were able to be like honored and supported. So that's kudos to you, Rebecca, for being able to do that.
Okay, my friends, I'm briefly pausing this episode to invite you to something very special. If you are ready to access bravery and to challenge your current sense of self and to step into and embody your new sense of self, one that is a frequency match for the partnership, for the things, for the life that you desire, then I invite you to explore my Meet the Frequency membership that is full of powerful step-by-step workshops to help you become a frequency match for the life that you desire. The link is in the description below, and you can use code ILLUMINATE for $20 off. And now back to the episode.
So we're in the park and I just had this realization, and I'm like, holy heck, you're right. I just have to like put the energy out there. One more thing. So sorry. Gotta back up. I think that I cannot believe I have not brought this piece up in even some of our conversations, Rebecca. You explained to me that like, if I had this wall up that no one could be right for me, then no one can get in. Like if there's no love available, I just had this kind of like, don't come near me wall. And that was another piece that motivated me to like come and do some of this work is, I'll go out in the world and I feel like I'll be looking good. I go out and do tons of different things. Like I should, in theory, even statistically, probably have like met somebody out in the wild at this point. I travel all the time. And I've been on dating apps, but I have had this energy where it's like, don't approach me. And I've actually had a friend tell me that before. She's like, when we're out and about and, she's like rocking it with the guys, you have this energy of like, don't come up to me. Cause, almost like, again, you're not it, or like, I'm just not even interested. So anyways, you explained that to me and holding that belief, how that shows up. And I was like, wow. And you're like, so when you start to open the energy, even giving your number to someone that might not be the right one, it really starts creating this energy around you of openness to allow the right one to come in. So then I was super motivated. We're still in the park. I got to get this challenge finished. I see this cute guy. I pop right up with everyone on Zoom. Okay. And I was in the middle of talking and I was like, sorry guys, hold on. I have heels on, which is also, an ode to my future husband. I laugh at this. I'm like, I would walk, the song where it's like, I would walk 10,000 or 5,000 miles, whatever it is. I walked a lot of miles in those heels to get myself ready for the one. But I ran down the hill in my heels. I see this guy and then I just went up to him and I was like, hi. I was like, I'd love to go out with you sometime. And he was like, hey. And I thought in my mind, he would just take my little number and be like, okay, like, thanks. But no, he stopped. He chatted. He wanted to get to know me. Like, he asked what I was doing later. He shook my hand, he got my name. And all the ladies are like literally listening to the call. My AirPod is still in. My phone is by my side. And so it went really well, but then I think I scared him off because like right as I turned around, I like picked up my phone and I was like, I did it. And I think he probably thought he was like getting punked or something. He did not actually end up texting me, which is fine because that's not the point, right? It's to exert that energy and like rewire and fire. So yeah, I had an amazing experience. And then I did some integrating with some of my own tools after as well to kind of take what I learned even further and really get rid of the subconscious beliefs that tied into all these things you helped me illuminate. And then the very last piece, if you want me to keep going.
Yes.
Okay. The very last piece was my call with Chelsea. And I would love to get to hang with Chelsea more. I feel like I haven't spent much time with her, but obviously following her and having that call, I totally could see that we would get along great as well. And so shout out to you, Chelsea. But she walked us through this meditation. And this was our very last, like our follow-up call after the Calibrave. And during this meditation, she brought us into the space where it's like, okay, how does the masculine energy, how does this man in your life show up? Okay, what does that feel like? What does that look like? What are some adjectives? Like write down some adjectives. What are some descriptive words that you feel are really indicative of like what you're looking for? What does that feel like now that he's holding that space, that energy? What does your energy show up as? How does that feel? And it was so cool because I got to see like how, if I do want a guy that's decisive, if I do want a man that can do those hard things, like you said, then I also have to shift into a space of allowing and the feminine energy of trust and of surrender. It doesn't mean my opinion is not voiced. It doesn't mean that we aren't co-creators and co-partners, but I also have to take a step into my femininity to allow his masculinity and to allow that balance. So it was another amazing realization. And I am super, super grateful. And I did share this with you, but a month later, I had an amazing guy come into my life. Like he came into my life supernaturally, and it's probably the first guy that I've like ever talked with, dated in my adult life that like actually hits like so many of the things that I'm looking for, where I don't feel one foot in, one foot out. I feel like I do really want to actively pursue this.
Wow. That reminds me of what you just said about, when you gave your number out to the guy in the Calibrave. It's okay. It's not that that's the one. It's that I'm opening my energy to, in my heart and my space and my field, to allow love in, to allow someone to come into my space. I think that part right there is key. And I always see it as your timeline hopping. You're literally saying, okay, I'm embodying this new energy. I'm embodying this new I'm inside the possibility. I'm open and available. And you moved through that resistance that was coming up on that call and allowed yourself to be open to it. And then, of course, things manifest in ways that we least expect it. And that's what's so cool, because we also get surprised by it because we're not trying to manipulate it. We're not trying to force it. We're embodying openness. We're embodying what it is that we desire. And then you manifested this man, which I freaked out the first time Ashlyn told me about it right before I was jumping on with her, one of her healers inside of her company share, who is amazing. So that was really special. And I love that you just touched on, Ashlyn, the power of meditation, and that everyone got to hear that, because it's one of my favorite modalities of all times. And it just allows you to take a breath of fresh air and to feel into what it is that you truly want, and to familiarize those feelings in your body. There's a part of us that doesn't know the difference between what we're imagining and then what's actually happening. So when we allow ourselves to imagine being taken care of, to imagine receiving, to imagine surrendering, then we literally start to have every single one of our cells touch upon that experience and get more comfortable with it, to then normalize it and call it in. So I love everything that you just shared. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, all of the different ways that you put the Calibrave together really helped touch on different areas that I needed to pull from. So whether it's illuminating the root cause of some of the limitations, to feeling into what it is that I do want, and then to the actual experience of moving the energy and helping me begin in that space. Like it was an incredibly fruitful experience. And, I don't know where this relationship will go, but I know that I'm a step closer.
Wow. So what would you say to someone who's listening and maybe they're like, oh my gosh, those Calibraves are crazy, or like, can it really be that simple? Or how does that all make sense? What would you say to someone who's listening, asking those questions?
Well, I would first of all say that there is actually science behind what Rebecca has put together. And she had mentioned one resource that has studied this idea of the, I kept saying firing and wiring, because it's a Joe Dispenza kind of saying that he says quite a bit. And I know you had mentioned one of his books, which is sort of where some of the Calibrave actual day of experiences are based on, from the science-backed side of things. So really, we can rewire, we can create a different energetic experience, but it takes more energy to basically override the current energy that you have, as you call it, clogged up, blocking the flow of what you really want. So that would be one thing I would say. The other thing I'd say, and I say this a lot in my own company, is we say lean into the maybes. So I think sometimes we want this like sure thing. We want this 100% guarantee. And now, does one thing work for absolutely every human being? I don't know. We have, 8 billion people on this planet. But I would say that for the majority, a certain amount of things will really help. And lean into a maybe. It doesn't have to be a full heck yes. I say this a lot, even within my own company. We say this idea of lean into the maybes. And I know sometimes it feels safe to have 100% guarantee, but really few things are 100% guarantees in this world. But when you lean into the maybe, you're giving yourself an opportunity to get to that something more that you desire, whether that's a different kind of relationship or a different experience within your just general dating life or relationship with dating. Like there's so many layers to what a Calibrave can help you with. But unless you lean into a maybe, you're going to stay stuck where you are. So if you're really ready to make progress, then you have to do something to make progress. And so I would say if you're teetering, I'd ask, first of all, what is your intuition telling you? Because that's got to be your number one guide. What is your gut feeling? If you're listening to this, something has brought you to this podcast today. Something has brought you to find Rebecca's page and has called in your soul a little bit to be here. So listen to that and then take the leap, lean into the maybe. It is going to be fruitful. And the worst case scenario is it doesn't help. But I'm telling you, it really does work. Like I myself had incredible things, and I've stayed in contact with the other women that did the Calibrave in my group, and they had incredible leaps as well. And so, the only thing I can tell you for sure is if you don't do anything, then your situation is going to stay the same. If that's what you want, like that's totally cool. Everyone grows in their own timeline. But if you're feeling called and you're trusting your gut, I would say lean in and you're in good hands. Rebecca knows what she's doing, and she also does it with such a loving, gentle spirit. Like you're not going to feel pressured or uncomfortable in a way that isn't like for your highest and best good, with a lot of love as well.
Thank you for saying that. It is really important that to me that people understand the value of the action that they're going out and doing, or the value of Calibraves, and also being okay with, okay, maybe it may not make complete sense to the rational part of us, but that's also the power of the heart, right? It transcends the rules of space and time. It may not always feel rational. We've had girls who one of our clients, one of her things was, you're going to go out and you're going to get a plant and you're going to dance with the plant in the middle of a store. So, but at this point you're trusting and you're embracing and you're just on fire and you're open, right? And then what's wild is that Calibrave and a few others that day then led to her manifesting an incredible partner, because her spirit was alive. She was no longer inside the fear of judgment. She was able to be all of her and to allow a man who loves all of her. And it's so funny because actually when I was driving through Colorado, which is when I saw Ashlyn, this client who I'm specifically talking about messaged me. She's like, oh my gosh, I told my honey it's my dream to live in Colorado, so we're moving there next week. I should introduce you guys, Ashlyn, because Ashlyn's in Colorado. And I'm like, this is amazing. This just makes me so freaking happy and excited. And Ashlyn touched on a really valuable, important point, which is it does take a higher amount of energy to override your old sense of self. But so this is the importance of decision, because you consciously decide, okay, I am ready to graduate my old sense of self and embody and hold a new frequency that's connected to a new timeline, that's connected to, in Ashlyn's case, a partner who inspires me, who's a protector, who all of these things are important to her. I'm no longer going to stay in this sense of self, and I'm essentially graduating. So as you do the Calibrave, as you do this powerful work, what's crazy is it doesn't take a lot of time. It always cracks me up when I tell women, okay, these are the 5 things you're going to do, and you have 2 hours, and they're like, only 2 hours? I'm like, trust me, you can get the hardest one done. Each one will take about 20 minutes or less. But the reason their brain goes only 2 hours, because they're like, wait, I would usually put this off for years and just stay comfortable. But that's why I love the condensed time. And you'll surprise yourself with how much you'll complete and how you feel afterwards. And so as you're literally drawing upon more energy to initiate into this new person, you feel magnetic. You will notice people around you, even if you're just walking through the grocery store and you're not, at this point, maybe you're not dancing or you're not doing something silly and crazy that, where attention comes towards you. Maybe you're just walking because you're going from Calibrave to Calibrave. You will still feel energy is people are noticing, and people are you're magnetizing your people to you and things to you. You're becoming more magnetic because you're literally holding and carrying more life force energy. And the book that Ashlyn was talking about that I recommend is called Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. I did one of his events in, I believe it was 2018. He actually he does a challenge experience, but it's the same thing for everyone. And it's nowhere near as cool as ours. So my dream is that we do these for Joe Dispenza's events. Just saying, y'all, tag Joe Dispenza, okay? Send him this podcast. But the concept, he's inspired so much of the concept in me. So Ashlyn, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your story and for inspiring all of us. And now, where can our listeners stalk you, get to know you? Tell us.
That is so sweet of you. I am so grateful that you had me on this podcast. And if you guys would like to know more, I actually have a Calibrave highlight of my experience on my Mom and I's business account, Love Ignites Peace. And that's LOVEIGNITES PEACE. And we are all about helping you transform your limitations to love. And we have our own kind of coaching that we offer, and we have different healers that you can work with. And we just want to help you get your freak, AKA your frequency, on inside and out, both daily and deeply. So I would love to connect with as many of you there that want to transform other limitations. And we all just need support in different areas, right? We're complex, multi-dimensional complex beings. And the more we support each other, just the more enriched our experiences. So thank you, Rebecca, for having me on and for having this podcast for people like myself to get so much value from on their journey.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I got to meet Ashlyn's mom yesterday. That was yesterday, right?
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Okay. What is time? So they also have an awesome podcast where they do podcasts from the bathtub, which is awesome. That was a first for me. I loved it. We're all in our own bubble baths, having a great conversation. So the links are in the show notes down below. And thank you again, Ashlyn, and everyone. I hope you have a wonderful, magnificent day. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and you can find a ton more free tips on my Instagram under Rebecca Boatman. If you are curious about my online membership and community, you can click the link that is in the description and see the page that explains everything you get to support you on your journey to attracting and building a healthy relationship. And I hope to see you inside.